Hello and welcome to Do the Right Thing, a writing prompt podcast. I'm Matthias.
And I'm Jarvis.
Jarvis and I are aspiring writers, which means that we forget how to pick up pens and put letters together to make stories.
Exactly. So we're doing a little challenge, just to help us figure out how the pen works, all that jazz. Each week we set a timer for 30 minutes. Our goal is to incorporate 3 of 4 randomly generated words into a complete short story.
That was not as bad as it has been sometimes.
Yeah, it was better.
Then we come on the podcast, we read the stories, we talk about what we learned in writing them, and then we talk about stories written by you listeners.
Exactly. We're simply here to help you do the right thing.
A Doof Media production.
A Doof Media profile.
I feel like that's the good way to bridge the two.
Yeah. Or we get to the point where Doof becomes a part of us.
I mean, it's a part of me. I mean, like my toes and stuff.
Oh.
Like I have the word doof ! Branded on each of my toes.
Actually,
the bottom parts.
So basically, last week I spoke to my doctor because recently I've been seeing doof in the corner of my eye.
Cool.
Like constant.
Like, is it like kind of like between the frames? You know how like in Fight Club, like between the frames they insert an image, and for you it's doof.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's just the big bam doof logo.
It's a good logo.
And my doctor basically said that I've been part of the company for so long that my DNA is actually morphing.
Right.
Because I'm slowly becoming a podcasting machine.
Right. So instead of what are the DNA letters? I know A, G.
Oh,
what are the other ones?
DNA.
No. Well, now they're just doof. It's DOOF.
Yeah.
So that's how
dioxide friction.
Yeah.
So, what were the words for this week?
So this week's words were soggy, teeny, lethal, and prickly.
Yes, which
it's a fun combo.
Personally, I appreciate this pull because it's giving me nothing whatsoever.
Okay.
I just because I never used the word soggy. I never used teeny.
Yeah.
I never used prickly. I don't use the other one either.
Lethal.
But
so which words did you use?
For me, I used lethal. I used soggy, and I used not prickly. Teeny. I used all of them besides prickly.
Okay.
And I feel that I just used them. They didn't really inspire the story I was writing. But I feel that this week I did the right thing. And I'm happy that I did that. What about you? How was your experience?
Really good. I just have to text my mom real quick.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah. I said, sorry, Mom, I'm too busy to come home today. Sorry to not say earlier. And then she sent me 5 sobbing emojis.
Aww.
I feel really bad.
Your mom loves you.
Okay, what were we talking about? I wasn't listening.
We were just talking about the words. I said how they affected me, but how'd they affect you? What'd you do with them?
So I could have used all of them, and so they all, informed some of the story. The only one I didn't use was soggy, and it helped set the setting, and I almost used it, but then I just eliminated it entirely.
Okay.
So, but yeah, it would have been easy to use. But yeah, I had a good time with this week's words. It's been an idea that's been bubbling around in my head, and so I'm happy to put it pen to paper. So before we get into the stories, let's do some community talk.
Exactly. So, Doof, what's going on?
So this week we had less submissions than we did recently, but that is totally okay. I understand. It's also, NaNoWriMo.
Exactly.
Rimo.
A lot of y'all are either writing, and also sometimes you just don't have time to do the right thing every week.
I do have at least 3 essays due next week. That's not a joke. That's not an exaggeration.
Oh, yeah?
Yes. 2 for the same class.
I finished 2 this week.
Nice.
But I have a test in physics. I might fail.
Yes.
But I also have a test in English, so I'm definitely going to pass.
Okay, good.
So yeah, this time of year for a lot of us, at least us, I know probably most of our viewers, it is crunch time, and there's a lot of stuff being due. So we completely understand if you didn't have time to actually sit down or do the right thing with us.
But if you just have like fallen off the wagon and you actually maybe do have 30 minutes somewhere where you can sit down and write, I highly recommend setting a timer for 30 minutes and then writing a little short story.
Exactly. And also it'd be great to tell a friend. I know this week I made a little bargain with my roommates, and I won that bargain. And my side of the deal was that if I won, they had to all do the right thing. So here pretty soon, they will also be submitting their own stories. You know,
hell yeah!
And I'm just sharing something that I love so much with the people that I love very much.
Yeah, well, in addition, to all you Worm fans out there, we all understand the difficulty of spreading the gospel that is Worm. I think that this is a good avenue to infect someone with the worm virus, right? You have to just get someone to listen to this podcast, and if they're a writer, that's a good motivation by itself to listen to this. And then we'll plug the other Doof shows, and as they journey through the other Doof shows, they'll eventually get inundated with enough Worm requests and references to Worm that they'll feel they have to read it. Yeah. And then they'll read it, and then they'll talk to you about it. And you can get the fun vibes of talking to someone who's reading Worm for the first time.
Exactly.
Which is what We've Got Worm, the original Doof series, is all about. And I highly recommend you go listen to that.
Yes, please do. And also read Worm. It's a very good thing. I haven't read that much, but from what I have read, I've realized it's very good. It seems to perfect a lot of the issues that I have found in other things that are superhero-based.
Yes. After this recording and after the Doof and Chill, because there's a Doof and Chill tonight, if for $5 patrons and above, you can watch us play Chuck Tingle's RPG, the Tingleverse. Yes. Or the Tingleverse RPG, in which we get pounded in the butt by RPGs.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
So what was I going to say?
After all that.
Oh, yeah, I will talk to you plenty about how Worm is a reconstruction of the superhero genre.
Exactly.
Very good.
It's quite good.
Sorry to flatter you, Wild Bill, if you're listening. I understand this is...
Yeah,
well,
sorry.
Then again, you listen to We've Got Warded, so...
Sorry for flattering you for the 5,000th time on this podcast.
Anyway, so that's my tangent. That's my tangent coupon for the day. Yeah. You can cash yours in later as well.
I will definitely do it later, yes.
All right, so I think that's all we have to say about the community. Thank you to everyone who submitted, and we will talk about a whole 5 of the stories submitted this week at the end of the podcast.
Exactly. So now it's time to talk about me.
Yes.
For a little bit. This week's story, I didn't write this last minute. I decided to do a little bit by little bit.
Do a little bit by what?
Little bit over time.
Oh.
So basically what I did is I've found that something that is beneficial for me is to take the 30 minutes and break them up into 10-minute sections over multiple days.
Okay.
Only because in the first 10 minutes I had the whole story out.
Okay.
So going back and reading it for a secondary time and working on it then, only for me, tightens up the story just a little bit because you get fresh eyes each time. So I tried that out this week because I had nothing else better to do. And I don't know, I enjoy what I wrote. It was fun writing. And yeah, there's just nothing really to say about it.
Okay. All right. Well, without further ado, let's get into your story.
All right, cool. The title of this one is The Closet. The treatment we've been meant to endure is all for a reason. Professor Wynn actually smiled for once, going as far to drop his shoulders and mimic the appearance of kindness. He looked the part of our sleazy professor, even on our graduation. His lab coat was wrinkled in all the wrong places. It remained its original true white color, but stunk like a petri dish instead of Downy or Tide. When looking at him, taking the monster in, the coat isn't that relevant, more of a secondary sensory. The real thing about Wynn that was insulting to the eyes was his greasy, mangled, damp black hair that slopped down over his eyes and ears and nose. They were the snakes to his Medusa, a perfect cut of seaweed-soaked hair right above his upper lip. So yeah, he looked ridiculous, like a forgotten Johnny Quest caricature. If it was any other day, I would have busted my spleen laughing at him. the treatment we've been meant to endure. Last time I checked, he designed the punishments. If I remember correctly, he was the one forcing us to nearly OD on coke and Dexy just to make it by. The last time we were he was tricking our parents into giving us away. But he had a mean right that made you fear him, and sound reasoning that made you respect him. I've talked for many years about his rule. Our joyous surrogate father really left an impression, but I can never say that his actions were done without the faintest hint of love. The closet was at the end of a small hallway hidden between class 203A and lecture hall 204B. It was kept dark back there, fluorescent lights of the adjacent hall almost completely masking its existence. It's not that we wanted to keep her secrets, though many have propagated disaster for the closet, but harsh light could warm the already blazing room. That would melt away years of work before we could do a goddamn thing. People like Professor Wynn hated nothing more than wasted time. It was 10 past 10. Every student and necessary faculty member had long gone home for the weekend. On any other Friday, the 7 of us would be right there with them. I think I would have been sweated up by a fire. Maybe I would have messaged Deborah, strike things up for the summer. Instead, we had just finished our final and fourth lap for the day and were quickly packed into the tight alley outside the hall closet, like sardines. Our professor was giving us our unofficial graduation ceremony, recounting his punishments as his fondest memories. There was a breathless something about his voice. Like a little bit of panic was in every word, and his throat soggy from tears. You have been fighting for the opportunity to do something that matters. Me, taking your teeny tiny potential and making geniuses out of all of you. You make us proud. After today, you will be a part of the link server, workers, insurgents, and busybodies for its logical reasoning to dictate. You will be the living example of the extent of evolution, perfectly designed by the hands of the last machine. Your reservations have been dropped by your studies and labor. As always, I will give you a final out. To leave and get left behind. The next words escaped Professor Wynn. A light shined down the dark hall, grew from a small flicker into a lethal wildfire. But it wasn't coming from the empty halls of the building. It was shining through the tiny window of the steel closet door. The glow of Link caught his eye. It was bright, and it was white. Like the winter sky just parted to halt the snow. It was melting. There's only enough for one pop, I guessed. We had all hoped, some prayed, for Link to survive the summer. It was getting hot, a record heat wave covering the earth. The 4 seasons on their way to being 3. Didn't help she was having cooling problems. Professor Wynn looked at me, at all of us, his eyes going red but his face stern. After today, we will be the Link server. Warriors, diplomats, explorers for our choices and our choices alone. We will be gods, created by the greatest minds, dedicated enough to dare. The abuse and torture made us ready, but as I failed to do, I'm giving you all a real out. Our answer was the silence that followed. Nothing needed to set in. Our minds were set. You don't spend your whole life waiting for the day only to break down moments before. We were better than that. Through his stern face, he was crying, mourning our decision for us. The steel door behind him warped out, bubbled by the sun's heat. The light clamored for an escape, blistered Professor Wyn's arm, and forced us back. It was a monster I couldn't begin to describe. Its tendrils of light erased the walls in thick, perfect strips. Our eyes met each other. Every spit and spite, every grudge or dependency dropped. Finally, as a unit, we clicked our feet together and, with a hand over our heart, puffed our chest. His little soldiers finally gave a good salute. A smile, genuine and somber, met us. He was finally proud of us. That was when Professor Wyn gave us our first return salute. Then he ran, balled his fist, and bared the rays protecting Link. Burnt down to the bone and screaming in pain, he got a hand on her, pulled the door hard, the whites of his knuckles popping red. Link expanded out of the room, down the halls and out the building. Within moments, it was all white. The crystal light broke us apart.
Well, all right. Wonderful story, Jarvis.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for reading it.
Yeah.
So it took me a little bit to figure out exactly what was happening, especially considering I thought they were going to get like uploaded to a computer rather than get subsumed by a digital light monster. But it sucked me in. I found it as a very, I don't know if realistic is the right word, but like grounded kind of scene, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you. That was what I was really going for. I mean, I too didn't know what exactly Link was, but I did have my speculations about like, oh, maybe it's like a human enhancement thing, because of course, like, these are these very smart people, of course, playing God in some aspect. So I don't know. I like thinking about those. And I like going down those ideas. So I guess that's why I wrote what I wrote.
Yeah. Before we started recording, you mentioned how you reminded me how you were listening to Electric Wizard,
yes,
a stoner rock band. And how you had listened to a song that had the line, I am a god. I am a god. And how that was an inspiration.
Yeah. It was Wizard in Black by Electric Wizard. It's a fantastic song. I don't know. I feel that like that's a common thread throughout a lot of the music that I actually listen to. The idea that like God is us, God is within us, and that we can maybe one day become God. I don't know. I like that fantasy.
Okay.
In a sense.
Of having all the power.
All the power, but also what that means.
Okay.
Right? The idea of transcendence. And I don't know. I know within this, I wasn't able to actually explore that. And I feel like something like that, I know I would have to have all my ducks in order to properly explain that.
Sure.
So instead, I decided to write what happens before that, I guess.
This before the machine
before
takes over. So, okay, so you say you don't know exactly what the Link machine is?
I mean, I do have ideas.
Sure.
So, have you played The Evil Within?
No.
Have you seen The Evil Within gameplay?
Well, regardless if I've seen it or played it, I don't think all of our listeners have.
Alright, so, I'm gonna guess that some have. And the machine that they all plug into, that is what I think Link looks like. So, there are these pods filled with this black liquid.
Okay.
And this vaguely Matrix-like, it's like if that, entire room where they, like, actually jack in the, Matrix was in a hospital room.
Okay.
So everything's white, very, very porcelain. And that's why I saw Link to be. And I saw it as a mixture of digitizing a person and enhancing it in the digital space that thus affects the physical body.
Okay.
And even if Link does explode, it still does that.
Okay, okay, so it explodes. It's not...
Because it overheats.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's only one pop left.
Okay.
Yeah. At least that's what I wrote.
Yes. Well, I like the increased tension over time as you describe the heat and how global warming is making it even worse. It's like it has a heating problem, a cooling problem where it's not cooling properly. But additionally, there's going to be only 3 seasons now because winter's gone.
Yeah,
the heat
is so hot.
It's pretty good. So I like those hints of world building and stuff like that. I found the setting interesting. Of it's a university, but it's kind of like a hell university. Like not actually hell, but like it's
horrible.
Very much, yeah. It's not a good place to be.
Apparently, there's punishment for not, I guess, training towards being a part of Link, and also the students have to rely on Coke and Dexy. Mm-hmm. Which I looked up. Dexy is actually street slang for Adderall.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's what they needed to make it through these rigorous tests.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like how you set the tone, or how you set the tone for this place of like being with this professor. You start off almost making it seem like he's just your quirky little professor, like he's mimicking the appearance of kindness. He looks the part of a sleazy professor. His lab coat is wrinkled and creased, but remains like true white. But then, like as you keep going, you're like we kind of get the picture that this is it. You're describing them specifically to be bad. Like they're not like endearingly unkempt. They are like just bad to be around.
Yeah, and also just I don't know, because as I was writing the first draft, I just had him being like a strict professor that is abusive, and also he's mentally and emotionally and physically abusive. But at the same time, I was like, well, what if he looked like a protagonist of some sort?
Sure.
So I was thinking like, well, there are a lot of anime out there.
Does he look like the guy from
protagonist? Yes.
What? I was going to reference Steins Gate.
Yeah. So I just kind of saw him as just like a very greasy, sleazy person. And I thought that'd be a little bit more fun, adding a little bit of a color to that character, especially since he's abusive and a horrible person, apparently.
Okay. Yeah, that's what we describe it. So I like the hall closet being a almost like hidden location.
Mm-hmm.
But I found that interesting how it's like, I thought it was just like a almost like torture room, not a secret base kind of room. So
that's what you got through.
Yeah, because it's in between 2 rooms, and it's like almost it's not a important location, right? So yeah, I was surprised that there was a machine god.
The last
a Deus Machina.
Yeah, in that little hall closet room. Yeah.
Yep. So what was the motivation for sticking it there?
Because I was thinking, right, and like in this, let's say in this academy / facility, right. You wouldn't put your most important room, I feel, in a location that seems like it is important. So, like how the core room in like every ship is the largest room, right? I wouldn't put my core room there. I would put it like next to the trash can.
Okay.
Because they won't look there, right? So I was thinking, so this god machine, this last machine, the one that is going to evolve the human race if it can survive the summer, is in this tiny, tiny little hallway that is shrouded in darkness to where it doesn't even seem like it's there.
I do very much like how the god machine is revealed, like how Yugen goes and like gets melted as he opens the door, and I like the tendrils of light erasing the wall in thick, perfect strips. Like I can pretty much picture it of just like the wall kind of disappearing in these blocks of light.
Yeah.
So I found it suitably eldritch.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel that as I was writing that section, I wasn't sure how, like, eldritch, I guess, I like, wanted to go. Because I described it as a monster, but I was worried that readers would take it as it is a monster. And not just, like, this crazy force that's literally just breaking through this thick steel door and it's destroying the surrounding environment by its strength. So I don't know. I feel if I were to go back and do a little bit more work, of course I would make it a little bit longer. It is on the shorter side. And I feel that I would have more room to really work with it. I want to build the main character a little bit more.
I discovered it in acronym that we can use.
What?
I would make it longer. Can be E will.
E will.
I will. Wait, no, there's an M there.
You. I will.
Mill. You mill. Because IWM, I will make IL it longer.
So, first thing I would do would be you mill.
Yeah.
And
it's a really good, useful, just rolls off the tongue.
Oh, yeah, very. Yeah. So I would do the meal, and and then I would just really figure out who the main character is. And I think the most important thing within this story, something I found was missing, was purpose.
Okay.
Like, what is the purpose of this place? Because I was conflicted. Was it to make, like, superhuman people, or was it to study, or was it to learn more about whatever whatever Link is, or to like categorize whatever Link says? I'm not really sure what that is. In my mind, Link is similar to the machine in the last question.
Okay, yeah. I think is that the Yeah, it might be the last question. Sorry. There's also the last answer, and I was getting them mixed up.
Oh. Is that like the other verse?
No.
Like or is that a totally different story?
It's a different story entirely, but they're related.
Okay, I see. Is it by the same person?
Yeah, it's Isaac Asimov.
Oh, yes. Asimov.
Okay, well, the machine, the machine in whichever one of those has the machine in it, that one.
The last question, yes.
Yes. Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
But yeah, I see it to be on like that level of intelligence.
Sure.
And somehow human hands created this.
What do you think you learned writing this piece?
Ooh. I think something that I learned writing this piece is a lot about my own style, actually. Because what I've noticed is that on the first draft, I enjoy it, but what I would actually do, I would go back and I would highlight and cut sections and then switch up the order of how things are described and like kind of fill in the gaps. And I found that brings the point across a lot more, and it lends itself to, I guess, sounding good to my own ears. So I guess I've learned a new technique.
All right, good.
And it's the same one that I applied in the previous story about the wizard. So I'm gonna follow along those lines.
Okay, I can't wait.
Yeah. So how are you?
I'm good.
Cool. How was your story?
Huh?
How's your story?
So, I'm going to be reading my story, which, I believe, what did I call it? I think I called it, like, Magic Shop?
Yes, you did.
Yes, I called it Magic Shop. So that's the story I'm going to be reading. I don't have that much to say before we start, so we can just go ahead and do that. Alright, so this story is called Magic Shop. The bells on the door jingled, followed by a moment of silence as the door shut, no doubt admiring their surroundings. "Just a moment," I said, and my voice was a melodic, twisting whisper, like a bird's song. It was pleasantly lucky that I had just taken a songbird's balm to ease my sore throat. "Make yourself welcome." I took a moment to finish grinding the nails into a fine black dust, before placing them in a glass tube already filled with a pink liquid. I twisted the tube once to set the mixture spinning, before setting it back in its place and coming back to the front of the shop. I entered the front of my shop through the screen of dangling whisper shells. They were silent as I passed through, but would tell me quietly if someone else tried to get through. A useful spell. The entrance of my shop was far more organized than the back, but still a mess. Scrolls threatened to spill over ancient oaken shelves along one wall, different potions and a few cursed relics glowed on pedestals, illuminating fleshy plants along the windows, and thorn vines crept over it all. However, this customer was not a fairy, but a human. She was most peculiar, with a veritable shrub of frizzy, coily black hair on her head. And from what I could tell, her skin was a soft black, like the petals of a mountain midnight rose. Certainly unlike any human I had seen in these lands. And she wasn't fey. No, not at all. She was grounded, her movements made with a steadiness uncommon even in most human children. She was inspecting a small plant with glowing purple bulbs, almost like teardrop-shaped berries. She was reaching out to one. "You may not want to touch that," I said. She spun around, startled. Her eyes went wide, seeing me, my voluminous furred robe, the feathers poking out here and there, and my beak. Her hands darted behind her back. "They call those tears of a loon. Do you know her story?" She nodded quickly. "I don't like that story very much." "Well, they say that her tears of vengeance for her lover were so strong that where they fell they produced that plant, so that Brosh's creations, her enemy, would destroy themselves." I smiled. "That's us." "Even touching one of those teeny tiny berries would send you into a mad frenzy. Eating one would be lethal." "If they're so bad, then why do you have them? Especially out here where anyone can see them?" she asked. I chuckled. "It is only a human that would touch a brightly glowing thing in a magical place. Only humans or sprites, and a sprite would deserve what came to them." She seemed to take that in, considered it, then gave a nod. She then drew herself up to be more official. "My name is Asha. The fae that I've met call me Homegooder." She held out a hand. I extended one of my more human-like hands, human-like but for the scales, and shook her hand firmly. "I am the Wampum Witch Weag," I said, "and this is my shop." I spread my arms, indicating the shelves, the shop desk, letting the snail shells under my sleeves jingle against each other. "What brings you to my little shop in the woods, Asha Homegooder?" "I have come from my village because I want to be stronger," she said with determination. But what do you mean by that, I wonder?" I slunk behind the desk, leaving a few black feathers in my wake, and bent down to rustle through my materials. "I could give you a tonic of fired stone and harden your flesh so you could stand unmoved for 200 years. I could give you the strength and ferocity of a lion, give you teeth and claws and bloodlust unending." I poked my beak over the desk, where I could see her still looking in wonder at the materials around her. "Would that suffice?" "Do you have anything that would make my heart stronger?" I blinked. "I might. It may be of use to explain your predicament, however." She nodded. "Yes, I'm not really from here. I'm from far away. Somewhere really far away. It's sunny there, and I miss it. It's so dark here. All the time?" I nodded. "I understand that you can't just take me home. It's very far, after all, and I wouldn't want to anyway. My family is here, and they want to stay. But there's someone I like that I'm not supposed to like. It hurts my family to be friends with him. Which is silly because we're children, and the nobles here are silly and don't even do anything." She was frowning, looking at the ground. She looked me in the eyes as best she could, where they were hidden behind scales and hood. She looked determined, but her brown eyes betrayed a well of sadness. "I want to be strong enough to not like him anymore, to keep my family safe." I stroked my beard of knots and strings. Yes, I could find something for that. One moment." I retreated to the back rooms, retrieving from a crystal bowl filled with a light blue liquid a prickly brown ball shrunken in on itself. I gripped it only by the end of long nails, not touching it with the pads of my fingers. I shook it dry and came back to the shop desk and presented it to her. This is a heartsucker seed. It grows with emotion. If you prick your finger on the seed, it will take that feeling away, using it to grow. All your fear, all your doubt, all your hurt, it will take it from you and use it. Would this suffice? She nodded. She held out her hand. Not so fast, Homgooder. You seem as lovely a human as any other I have met, but things do not come free in this land, and certainly not in my shop. Yes, she frowned. What would you like? I peered over the desk. That is a lovely pendant around your neck. And it was. I had a better look at it now. The necklace was made with colorful beads, with colors I had scarcely seen. The pendant was a symbol of the sun, made with golden beads that shone with an inner light, with 2 feathers from far, far away. It smelled like home and sun and heat. I could make much use of it. She took it off and held it in her hands. She seemed to weigh it on multiple levels. A heavy decision for mortals to give up parts of themselves. It was always so interesting to see how they are so much less willing to change, and yet they do it so much faster than us creatures of ether. She held it out, beads spilling over her hand. I could see her sadness, a flavor of grief, bubbling behind those eyes. The deal is done, I said, and I reached out and replaced her necklace with a heartsucker seed. Ow, she said, but it was mostly out of being startled. It had already pricked her, the smallest of punctures in the center of her palm. She watched in fascination as it throbbed. Her pain, and then her fascination, drained slowly, too slow for her to notice the latter. Thank you for your trade, Asha Homgooder. However, before you go, know this. Never feed it too much. Never feed it too fast, as this heartsucker is a greedy thing and would grow so fast as to burst its skin, unleashing all that it has eaten. Never feed it more than thrice in one day, understand? She gave a firm nod. Yes. She looked up. Thank you, Mr. Weag. Good. I took some wisp dust from inside my cloak and blew it out. It formed a glowing ball of light. This wisp will lead you out of the forest. And before you go, one last bit of advice. She was already preparing to head out, the heartsucker having found a place in her pockets. She turned. Step carefully in the night. Stay close to the wisp in the path. Not all creatures of the forest are as kindly mischievous as sprites and fae, or as fair as I. She nodded and then opened the door, whisked out, following the wisp to home. Not her home, but a new one. I took the necklace to my back rooms. Not much would dare steal from me, but there is not much more tempting to fae than a symbol of childhood, no longer guarded by a soul. I placed the necklace carefully in the lockbox of smooth gray gravewood. The seed would take her emotions. It was a genuine trade, without malice, and it would suit her purposes. Though, of course, as a human, she would no doubt find some way to break the rules and bring some ruin. I could only hope that she would learn her lesson after that. I knew very well that most humans don't. The Fae called her Homgooder, an old word meaning simply one that seeks to go home. I let myself smile, just a bit. Let her find a new name, now that she no longer carried a vestige of that place with her. Let her find a new name, now that she no longer carried a vestige of that place with her.
Alright, well, I absolutely loved that story.
Thank you.
It seems, I don't know, for some reason I feel like I've always wanted you to talk about a magic shop.
Sure, okay.
It seems very, Matthias-centric. So,
Okay.
first of all, let's start off. What got you here? What made you want to come up with this?
I mentioned earlier in the podcast that I've been twisting some story ideas around. I want to. I can't do NaNoWriMo in November. It's just not gonna. It would not
it's
have
impossible,
happened. For me. With finals and all that and other things. But we have a whole entire month of winter break because college is cool.
Yes.
Quite cool. And so during that time, I aim to set my own NaNoWriMo challenge.
Oh,
and do NaNoWriMo. So I'm testing around some novel ideas. And one that I want to do is basically the story of one of these magical shopkeepers. Like, you know... I'm sure you're well aware of the trope of, the character goes on a journey and then they meet the old wizard or whatever, and then they get their magical items. Mm-hmm. Usually it's 3. I didn't have time to put 3 in this one.
Is it normally 3?
I mean, yeah. Okay. Usually it's 3 magical items and there's a rule where you can only use them 3 times or something like that.
Okay.
Where, like... The first time they do it, it causes a problem. The second one causes another problem. The third one actually either solves it or actually... Yeah, anyway.
It's like the bag of wins.
Yes, exactly. So, anyway, I wanted to do something with... from that perspective, the other side of the story. Okay. And so this is like a scene in the life of the magical witch. So this is the witch Weag. Mm-hmm. And so I have some other...
bearded witch.
In my mind, they're masculine.
Okay.
So it's not like witch is kind of... It's just a profession. It's not a gendered term.
Because what I've noticed in a lot of things is that if it's a male witch, it's normally...
Yeah, it's witch is a wizard.
Called a warlock.
Oh.
Well, no, like a warlock is a half. Witch, wizard, either way.
Yes. Witch is generally gendered female. And I think historically that's also true.
Yes. But either way, I mean, I really like the character of this witch. What you're setting up, I enjoy how the witch is very hopeful, but also like looks at certain things from a negative perspective, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I was trying to mix something because I didn't want them to be evil. I didn't want them to be the secretly evil thing that actually just causes terrible things to happen.
It's more just like in the middle.
Yeah,
it's like, I'll sell this to you.
I'll give you what you want, and if you follow the rules, it will turn out pretty okay.
Even though that they know that they're not going to follow the rules.
Yeah.
Inherently.
I mean, not that you should actually bleed out your emotions into a seed. That's probably not healthy either. But.
Yeah. Well, on that, I do like the device very much. I'm like, I don't know, like it's not a MacGuffin because we know what it does, but I do see like this device, the story revolving around it. If that was the story you were going to tell, I do know it's like one of the many items in this shop, but it seems like that's a whole story on its own. And at the end, the witch even went over like, at first it's going to be fine, but then of course the ability to bleed out certain emotions that are too much will of course cause someone to abuse it. And I really like how you set that up and how much thought I can tell really went into the creation of this device.
Yeah, well, as I was doing it, I was like, okay, I want them, the magical shop. I want to describe the magical shop because that's just fun. Like, I've just had a lot of images of that recently. Yeah. It's basically like my happy place of like picturing myself in a place shop. where I can be the magical wizard. So this is like a little bit of the self-insert, just like a little bit. But anyway, but so I was like, okay, it has to have a scene. So like, I want it to be something where you can see the course that this character is on. I want you to have like an outline of what their conflict is. And because of what storytelling is, I want you to be able to kind of guess what's going to happen.
Exactly. Yeah. As Miroslav says, inevitable, but no.
Almost.
Predictable.
Nope. Opposite of predictable.
Unpredictable.
No, not that kind of opposite.
What is the phrase that I use this?
And endings should be surprising but inevitable.
Yeah, that's what it is. How the ducks are set up. And honestly, with this, I can definitely see you doing your entire NaNoWriMo over this character. Of course, you have to probably like figure out what the overarching conflict.
Oh yeah, no, I have some other ideas, and it wouldn't be so much on the people it's helping.
Yeah, but I do feel that you did a fantastic job of really just putting us in this world and like grounding us, especially since I too think that describing a magic shop is so fun. Like every time I like think of a magic shop, I think of a mix of. Have you played Bloodborne?
Yeah, well, I'm aware of it.
Okay, yeah.
Do you want to describe it for people who haven't?
So there's this library level that's filled with these like goop monsters.
Okay.
So I kind of think of like that look, but it's like a really tall ceiling, and for some reason flying books.
Okay, sure.
Because I've seen Harry Potter, and I think it's awesome.
Yes.
Just a book will fly to you.
Yes.
So I don't know. I just think that the act of describing this magic shop that's filled with these like otherworldly items is so fun, and I can definitely tell reading it that you did have fun, but also you did it in a way that I don't know. You used your voice and your imagery to its best ability, and I really appreciate reading that.
Well, thank you. What did you think of Asha Humgutter?
Ashna Humgutter. I definitely liked her character. Let's see. I think that, to be honest, it did feel like a little one-sided, but of course, there's only so much you can do in the time that is allowed. As I said, I could definitely see that being the actual story of following this person who wants to forget, in a sense, and how her name is old. You said like an old something.
Yeah,
word
I wanted it to be
to go home.
When I put the name, I had in mind that I would have like a longer explanation, just like a very explicit explanation of like Humgutter was like just an old, like it's just an old word that basically literally means like person who wants to go home.
Yeah.
Like home, it was literally just means home.
Home. Yeah.
Like it was supposed to be obvious.
Exactly, and it was kind of obvious, and I don't know. I think in that aspect, you did like a really great job of setting her up. In certain times, I wasn't sure who was talking.
Okay,
because I will say that like they are different, but in certain phrases, especially when there's like a lot of back and forth, I think towards the end, I wasn't confused, but I was having a harder time just saying, okay. Hom's talking. They're talking back and forth.
Oh, I hadn't even noticed that. I thought it had like tags on everything, but
there were mostly tags, but I know that there was like 3 lines. I was just like, either one could say that. I think
pay more attention to that.
That just chalks up to knowing the characters like a lot more, and being able to bring that characterization out through the actual dialogue. Like, I mean,
of course, the people listening. Probably were able to tell the dialogue a little bit more because I was doing voices a little bit. So
exactly, yeah.
But if you were reading it, the actual text, yes.
So I mean, like, if you had the ability, the power.
Okay, you're barely showing up on the mic doing
if
that.
You had the power to go back and do anything to it, especially since this is going to be your first major novel that you're going to send out to the world.
It's going to be published immediately. Like, after I have that 50,000th word, even if it's mid-sentence, I'm just going to hit publish.
Yeah. I mean, I know that's what Stephen King did back in the 70s.
Yeah.
So I think it's a very good template. But if you did have the ability, what would you go back and change?
I think what I would do is I would fully think out why Asha is there and her whole purpose, and have it even more like a more thematic kind of like. I mean, that's what the story part of the story is, right? Yeah. It's not that it's a magic shop or whatever. I mean, it's fun, but that's not the point of the story. The story is about you're seeing this character come in and you know what's going to happen to them, and you should feel something because of it. And so when I was thinking of her conflict, I think the conflict I thought of like works, which is like like she doesn't want to like a boy because it's bad for her family to like him, right? And it works, but there's definitely like I could either change it to something a little bit more emotionally stronger, or I could Just make it more emotionally resonant some other way. There's something I could do. Especially, like, he takes her in an aspect of her home, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because I didn't want to make the main character evil, right? Probably because I'm viewing it as a little bit as a self-insert, just a little bit.
Yeah.
I
mean, maybe you're truly evil.
I'm truly evil, and I should just be like, haha, he took her.
He stole
her home, and now she can't remember home. But yeah, something about that exchange should be emotionally resonant as well.
Okay.
So what did I learn in this? Maybe I should just like let my characters be evil.
Yeah. Also, I want to commend you on your description of this other character, because I know before we had a short conversation of the proper way to tell the audience that a character is African American without it being too much.
Well, she's not African American, because I'm pretty sure in this world there's no such thing as Africa.
She is darker pigment. I like that you actually took some thought into it, because I have read in a lot of other things where like it's either too much or it's not enough. Like I've seen so many things where it's like, yeah, her mahogany skin, and I was like, ew, okay. Or like, ooh, like I've seen cafe, I've seen chocolate so many times.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's an issue. I feel that you should describe it in the best way that you can, in the truest way to what the imagery is. I just feel with certain things like that, you should be aware. Yeah. And there are like more passive ways to describe it, more active ways. So.
Yeah, I was playing around with it because I mean, this is a very like European kind of folklore kind of thing. So I was like, wouldn't it be interesting if the adventure girl isn't white, right? Yeah. Because that's the default. If I hadn't described her skin, you probably would have assumed that she was white, right? Yeah.
I would assume she was a ginger.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too.
For some reason.
Yeah, no, yes, I completely agree. So, I wanted to just do something a little different there. And, and I wanted, like, it to be, like, because the witch has never, seen a black person before, right? Because they live in a European cold land, and it's unusual, right? In that area. At this time period especially, which I don't think I defined a time period, but...
No, but, like... I could definitely tell that, it's medieval-esque. Yeah. I just see it being set in, like, fantasy time period. Yeah. Which is, like, I guess its own, like, weird time period where it's, like, not modern, but it's not
sometimes
not
there's guns, but, like, not usually.
Sometimes there's guns, and, like, there might be a train somewhere, but we're not really sure where it is.
But anyway, I wanted the witch to be... To notice it, right? But I didn't want that to be, like, in a weird way. Which is why I asked you on your opinion.
Yeah. Okay. Either way, I enjoyed what you did do there.
Well, thank you.
I like how it was wrapped in the fantasy also. Okay. So, very good. Very well done.
Thank you. Okay. Well, we can move on. We don't have to...
we don't have to just sit here.
I appreciate the praise. Yeah. All right. So let's just move into the community, the submitted writers. What's the name for this section?
Our submissions.
And
thank you so much to everyone that submitted. I know that this week was a little bit light, but it's all good. It's all great because just because there isn't 17,000 of you doesn't mean that there's 11 beautiful stars in the crowd.
I don't understand at all what you just said.
We have 11 stories that were submitted. And just because there aren't more stars in the sky doesn't mean that those 11 don't shine as bright.
Okay, so we are going to read the stories by Synths,
Kippos21,
Sir Raven,
Sarah Penguin,
and new submitter, Terrible Alchemist.
Yes.
So thank you for you guys for submitting. If you are not one of those people, that is, reassure yourself with the fact that every single time that you do the right thing, your chance of getting selected goes up. Additionally, if you haven't read the stories yet, please do, because we're going to spoil them entirely
so
as we talk about
if you have time, pause it right now, give it a good read. It won't take that long. Say maybe like an hour max, right? And then
that's probably not even close.
Well, 1 hour for me because I'm a slow reader.
Okay.
Right? And then after you do that, come on back, and then you'll know what we're talking about, and we'll be able to powwow with you.
Okay. Sorry. So, Synth's story was called A Warm Feeling. And it's this really cute story of just someone waking up and then waking up their boyfriend in a really, really cute way.
And yeah, I think that is definitely like the truest form of it. It's very cute. Like, literally, it's
heartwarming. Yeah.
It's a lot of sensory, which is why I think I like it the most. There's a lot of things that you could chew on, that you could think of. It's very relatable in a sense of like waking up on a beautiful morning. It's
she just like rolls over on her boyfriend and then like wakes him up with a bunch of kisses.
He's like, ew, why are you touching me, bro?
It's a very wholesome, cute story. And so since basically asked for feedback on writing a female character. I still, I mean, obviously, we aren't the full perspective, and of course, having feedback from someone who identifies as female would probably be better. But I think, from my limited perspective, I think it does it pretty well. I will say that, like, I just couldn't. I think it's very gender neutral. It was only until like halfway through that I actually assigned a gender to the speaker. I thought that they were a gay man at first, actually.
You did?
Yep. I think
maybe, I just thought it was a couple.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Yeah. So yeah, it wasn't until just like halfway through. It was slightly more feminine, the narrative. So I ended up switching my identity of the main character before her name is said. So. So from my limited perspective, yes, I think since they did a good job gendering the character.
So, and I think like a small fix for, I guess, us to instantly catch on in the beginning is for I don't know, maybe it being a little bit more informed. Like, it doesn't have to overtly come out and tell us, but if it is a crucial part of your story, it should be present as soon as possible, I feel.
No, maybe, yeah. Well, all right. So, obviously, having perspective from an actual woman would probably be better than us continuing. Anyway.
Yeah, great story.
Yes, a good story. We really, really enjoyed just the pleasant feelings it gives us. So let's move on to Kippus21, who wrote a very short story called Defense. And basically, this character, Lisha, is some kind of monster with many arms.
Who's not a part of partially a part of a collective.
Part of an army, it seems like.
Yeah.
And she drags herself and like lunges out of a lake. There's these birds that are threatening to eat her.
She's passing by her fallen sisters.
Yes. And
finds her way into a crack in the road.
And then dives deep in it to become a wall of thorns, basically, with lethal venom. And she does this all for her master, who I assume is a wizard that like created her.
Okay, so you got wizard vibes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I was thinking like Eldritch horror.
Hey, yeah, you can do the both.
Like Dakin. I was like, hey, go and make me a wall.
Sure. But yeah, I found it very interesting. It's this short, just like view into what this world is, and it seems kind of horrible considering that like basically the aspects of the spell that like creates the wall are all alive and they're all like dying on the way.
Honestly, I just think it's like a really great scene, and it instantly pulls you in this sense, especially from like this alien-esque perspective of a lot of things. And honestly, I would say if they had time to like make it longer and like add even more and like give a sense of purpose, I guess, throughout. Because of course this felt like a scene in a larger piece, and I would love to read the rest of it if that ever does happen.
Completely agree. So the next story is by Sir Raven. It's called A Day in Little Nix. And so this is an interesting like twist of tones where it's kind of this like little demon, I think it's in hell, right? I think that's stated pretty explicitly, or something like that. Yeah, and underworld.
Yeah, exactly.
And so this demon,
a place where this is the norm in a sense for a demon just to go to a market.
So there's this like lighthearted tone of like it starts off with like just the tone of this. Let me just read out the first the second sentence. I stretch and no bones in my body crack because my bones are rather spongy, right? So it's like this, like that line alone, like communicates. It's
very playful.
It's playful because like rather spongy, but also it's like very inhuman and kind of like horrible. Like you wouldn't want to look at that, you know? Spongy bones. I would not like that.
I would love a good sponge bone.
I don't know about that. Yeah, so we have this little like mix of like this is humorous and stuff, but it's also like these are demons and they're probably horrible to look at.
Yeah, probably. Which I think honestly is why I like it so much, because it is this mixture of like two elements. There used to be this show on either Adult Swim or USA named The Americans.
Okay,
and it has this horrifying art style. But it's just a typical sitcom, and it takes place in hell, I think. And I, for some reason, I get very similar vibes from this. How, like, there is this typicality to these extraordinary things and peoples and beings. And I don't know, I really enjoyed that. In a sense.
And so this creature goes and we see like a little vignette of the city, of the town that it lives by, and it goes to a shopkeeper and tries to buy some stuff, but can't afford it. And
tries to buy shrooms.
Huh?
Shrooms.
Yes.
The
shroom vendor.
The shroom vendor.
Yes. And there's this like this little recurring beat of it just saying bleh.
Because it's hungry, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which it's very cute and a fun little beat. But before it goes back home and decides to just start eating some younglings, basically.
Yeah. I can, for some reason, I see this character being in the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy.
It could for sure fit there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I found it very cute, and I wanted to eat...
I wanted to eat younglings.
I wanted to read more. All right, so the next story is by Sarah Penguin, and it's the complete opposite tone. So this is called Things That Go Bump in the Night, and it's disturbing and scary.
Yes. Yeah, so basically it is the story of a girl's father looking for monsters under the bed, and then the monster does appear. And so, after reading through it, at the end, Sarah Penguin describes that they wanted to create a story that has multiple ways of really looking at it. So, in my initial read, correct me if I'm mistaken, but how do I say this?
It's pedophilia?
Pedophilia,
and
yes.
Rape is the description?
That is the route that my mind went on. So basically, the father says a lot of very, very cringy, very creepy lines, and starts to feel her up.
It's actually really, really awful. Like it's I was uncomfortable reading it.
Very well.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. It's not done in a way that like you think anything negative about the author.
Yeah, exactly. It seems like a very genuine telling. If that's like it's not going here just to go here. It seems like there's a reason for it.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's one of those kind of things where it's like it's not looking directly at, like it doesn't say like.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't want to say these things, right? But it's not like, he's like touching her, right? Yeah. But like we know that's probably going to happen. Right?
Yeah, a lot of what's the word for it? When you're hinting at something but not saying you're hinting at, I don't know. But yeah basically there are a lot of hints and tells towards what's really happening. But then on the other hand, you could also take it as metaphorical.
Yeah, well, yeah, you could take it. I think the other interpretations are like that the monster is making her father do this.
Yes,
or
it's all in her head,
and
possibly.
it's just the monster.
Exactly, which I think means that the whole goal of the story was really accomplished, because there are those multiple ways to take it at. I just know that we both had the same idea on the initial read of it.
Yeah, I think the most obvious read is that this is all real. I think we kind of default to that because like we would like usually when we want to find the twist of something is that it is real.
Yeah.
Like we want to know what the realist take is, and I think that's usually the one that we view as well the most real. So yeah, that's where we go, and it's very uncomfortable. It's genuinely like yeah, it's
yeah. Like I mean,
I don't know how else to say this. It's uncomfortable to read.
Reading it, I was at home, and my roommates were like doing the thing, and I was at my table reading it. I had to turn down the brightness because I felt so just like uncomfortable. It's like I don't want other people to be reading this.
Yeah.
But no, I absolutely loved it, and please continue to write. It's fantastic.
I will say one little thing is that so it ends with, in the light of the princess's wand, all she could see was the wide grin right in front of her. I feel like that turns it more into like the it's a monster thing, and I feel like just to keep it as uncomfortable, I that sentence didn't do anything for me, so I feel like you just cut that and
well, I feel that sentence was too grounding. If that means like that sentence pointed me even further into it's the father.
Okay, yeah,
right, and not the monster, because the monster wasn't characterized as having a wide grin.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want to keep with the ambiguity, I would definitely probably get rid of that line, or I would say put in a lot more moments where the audience can question if it's real.
Sure.
So maybe some fantastical happenings that happen after the monster spins around the bed and before the father starts doing his thing. For
me, though, it's definitely the main part of the story is not that it's like multiple endings and stuff like that. It's just that it's like a horrible reality of pedophilia. Yeah. So if you are okay with reading something, that kind of uncomfortable, I mean, it's worth it to, kind of explore what, that feels for other people, to be a victim of that. So yeah, I would highly recommend that you read this if you are possibly comfortable with that.
Yeah.
So really well written, Sarah. I don't know if we're coming across as negative, but I think it was really well written, and it's a very uncomfortable story.
Yeah.
And I had bad feelings while I was reading it, which is good.
Yeah. Loved it. Well, I didn't love it, but
yeah, there's no way to properly communicate enthusiasm for a story that's about such negative things.
I enjoyed your writing and your prose, and I think you got the sauce.
Oh God, I didn't.
What?
Don't describe the story as having sauce.
Well, it's just not like that kind of...
I would like to just move on.
Yes.
I would... motion proposed, move on.
Motion carried.
Okay. All right, so the next story we're going to talk about is by Terrible... Or the last story we're going to talk about this week.
It's Terrible Alchemist, who is a new writer. Woo! Yeah!
I don't like that.
You're riding with us. Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us, Terrible Alchemist. It is okay that it took about 3 hours to write. We forgive you. Sometimes that just happens.
Yes, but you only get this one pass. If you do it again, we're going to delete you from Reddit.
Yep.
I will call Minecraft Steve personally.
I will take your username and superimpose it over mine like a mask.
Yeah. Like The Mask. With Jim Carrey.
So this story is called The Red Death, and it describes...
Strong title. I love it.
Yeah, so it's this... There's a sickness across the land, and this character is going to a home where a priest has kind of given this person their final rites. Mm-hmm. And also the main character is wearing one of those plague doctor masks, the big bird-like ones, and goes in...
Like overhaul.
We get a kind of a description of like what the priests are like in this, and that they've taken kind of an increasing role while the Red Death goes around everywhere. And the main character finds this sick person with suffering from the Red Death, and it seems really gross.
Their body became spongy
and red. And the main character basically mercy kills them, and then takes their money.
Yeah, which
I guess
honestly,
is their payment.
I love that section. How times are so hard that this person who is doing good can't even make it wholesome in a sense. Like they have to steal from this dead body.
It seems realistic.
Very realistic. Yes.
Yeah.
Like if I don't know, I would love to see this story of like how everything is so like overrun with this like Red Death. That people have to steal, but yeah, overall, I really love the story. I love the description of a lot of things. Like as soon as I started reading, I knew exactly where I was, and my mind filled in a lot of blanks of how certain things look. I think the shining thing in this story is the tone that is created, and it's very true to what it's trying to be, and I really love that.
I completely agree. I don't have that much more to say about it. I think it was just a good dive into this world, and I enjoyed it a lot.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. All right, so that's all the stories we have this week. If you were not selected this week, again, don't worry. Every single time you do the right thing, your chance of getting chosen goes up.
So keep on writing, please.
Yeah, and so if you didn't write, maybe consider it next time. All you have to do is set a timer for 30 minutes and use 3 of the 4 randomly generated words.
Exactamundo. So let's go ahead and just shout out everyone who wrote this week.
Yeah, so thank you to Synths,
Kipos21,
Ace of Sword,
Sir Raven,
Shin7,
Ghost Pac-Man 4,
Moradinamail,
Sarah Penguin,
Terrible Alchemist,
Bisexual Punch Party,
and Hashirima Cells.
Yes, thank you so much for everyone who submitted. Without you, this podcast would be a lot more boring and a lot shorter.
Yes.
So thank you for making it longer and less boring.
Additionally, thank you to everyone who left a comment on someone else's story. Leaving that feedback is so important to like creating a cool sense of community. So yeah, I really appreciate everyone that does that, especially when it's like some good, genuine, thought out feedback. Like, it's always really satisfying to read that.
Exactly, and like beyond that, it's a great sort of confirmation for something that you've written. I know whenever I get feedback on something that I've written, it not only shows that someone actually wrote it, but that they have genuine thoughts on it.
Yeah. That it wasn't just something they read and they threw away. Yeah.
Exactly. That it at least had some sort of lasting effect. And that's always something that I feel every writer needs to feel and needs to really get as much as possible, because feedback is like half of the process of actually writing, along with
it's definitely half of my motivations. Like one half is because I just want to get an idea out, and the other half is because I want to see what other people think of of my ideas.
Exactly. And yeah, I mean, and when you do get that feedback, I'm always giddy. It feels great, even if it's negative, because it means that you have a sort of direction on it.
Sure,
that there's an arrow. But
all right. So if you want to be like all these lovely people that submitted, you can go to /r/do the right thing on Reddit and leave your story in one of the posts. You can also go back and write a story to any old prompt. We still don't have a good way for it to do feedback for that, but I mean, you absolutely always can. Yeah,
and also if you want feedback, you can always send us a direct email, actually, at writethingcast@gmail.com.
That's right. And you can also see the words as they come out on Fridays, usually Fridays. I've been not perfect at that recently. This week it did come out on Friday. By following our Twitter, which is @writethingcast.
Yeah.
Additionally, you can become a patron of Doof Media, this wonderful network that we are a part of.
Exactly.
By donating $1 a month or whatever else you can afford, you can join the Doof Discord, as well as get plenty of other wonderful perks.
Yeah.
One of which is you can join us on our Doof and Chill sessions,
which we're about to record right after this.
In 1 hour we will record it. So I think we do keep the videos up, so you can actually watch them later by becoming a $5 patron or above. And so this week we're going to be this month we're going to be doing we're going to be playing the Tingleverse RPG, which is
which I just found out about
yes
today what that is.
So the Tingleverse, for those who don't know, and I'm cashing in your tangent coupon because you didn't cash it this episode.
I already cashed in my tangent coupon.
Okay, well, I cashed
in 7 tangent
I'm going
coupons.
into tangent debt, then maybe.
Yeah, so you're going to have to pay me back.
That's right.
In tangents.
So Chuck Tingle writes books such as, let me read some of his titles, and these are real books that you can really read. They're short, but they're real. Pounded by the handsome zombie elevator, who is also a lawyer. Also slammed by my handsome fidget spinner. I'm gay for my living billionaire jet plane. Pounded in the butt by my book Pounded in the Butt by my own butt. So this is kind of the genre that Chuck Tingle writes in, and we're going to be playing a RPG set in that world. So I would highly recommend you guys check that out if you can. If you weren't there for the original streaming.
Exactly. By helping out the patron, you not only get those perks, but you are helping us out and helping us to keep doing this and making it better for you and overall just keeping the drive up from episode to episode. So thank you so much for those who have donated. And if you like what you're hearing, like what you're seeing, maybe you should think about giving us a little bone.
Okay. I feel like this call for monies has gone on very long. So let's close.
Give me your money.
So what else is going on in Doof Media right now? So right now, there is an episode on Media MD.
Oh, really? Who's on that episode?
So I'm on that episode.
Really?
And we're covering The Transformers, the movie.
Which one?
1986.
Okay.
And so we had a good time talking about that. If you haven't seen the movie, I think it's a good intro to the series. Just because it really points out the ridiculousness of it, but also how you can enjoy it, I think.
It's right with nostalgia. If you love shows like He-Man and She-Ra.
Speaking of, there's a Doofcast episode on She-Ra. So if you haven't checked that out and you watch She-Ra, you should listen to that episode.
It's also on Netflix if you haven't seen it.
So just for 5 minutes, we're going to do our segment called Idea Corner, where we just talk about our ideas.
Yep.
So I'm going to talk about my idea for about 2 minutes and 30 seconds, starting about 15 seconds ago. I was watching Elliot play Alien Isolation in VR, as that is a $10 patron and above.
That also sounds
perk.
terrifying.
It was fun. We didn't actually see the alien yet, so I'm looking forward to next time.
Okay.
Because I haven't seen the playthrough of the game.
Oh, so it's a series. He's going to do it multiple times?
Probably.
Okay.
I think so. But I was thinking, you know what would be such a cool setting for a horror game like Outlast and Alien Isolation? Would be a medieval world. I'm picturing like a necromancer, right? And undead armies. And like you come in with the idea of like, oh yeah, you're going to pick up a sword and fight some skeletons. But no, like anything will kill you. You are a peasant and these are monsters, right? So I had this idea for a scene, and anyone is free to steal this, absolutely. And also I want to point out that this is I'm just basically describing the grim dark genre of books, but this would be a video game. But basically, there's the intro where like the zombies are everywhere, whatever, and you run to your noble, right? And the noble like hands you a sword. He's like a knight. He's dressed up in armor, and you're like, oh yeah, here we get to the fighting section, right? And so he like hands you a sword and says like, pick up a sword, good man, and help me fight these monsters. And he like then charges in the battle, and he's faster than you, right? So you can't be at the same place as him, right?
So that you see him.
So you see him in front of you as you're chasing after him as he faces off a monster.
Like Zeke.
And so he goes to fight a giant monster, and he swings a sword, and the sword cuts through the entire thing and does nothing at all. And then the monster just like stabs him through the chest, and he like drops his sword, and he like turns to you. He's like, run, run, and you have to run or else everything will kill you. And that's kind of like sets a tone of
and you run for the rest of the game.
Yeah, you cannot, you are just trying to survive and get your family out of here, basically, in this horrible world where you can't fight the monsters.
Honestly, I can see that game selling.
That would be cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I want to see that scene. We could do a short film.
Yes, we can.
We literally could.
The only issue is the practical.
I'm not the director. I don't have to deal with that.
Who's the director?
She's a short film club. They'll do it.
No.
He's shaking his head at me.
We're not going to even entertained.
All right, what's your idea, Jarvis?
So, my idea, so I guess it's like a magic system, but not. So it's not a magic system, but it kind of is a magic system. So I was thinking, what if people in a world had some sort of supernatural powers? I'm thinking like the X-Men, right?
Okay.
But when they come in to these powers, the conduit to these powers are reliant in a certain trinket.
Okay.
That they have, whether it be a ring or a lighter or a set of keys or a phone or like whatever, and whatever that trinket is determines kind of in what wheelhouse their power plays in, and I kind of see it as a mixture of Persona, Supernatural.
Okay, the show,
yeah, Persona, Supernatural, and I had a third one that was similar too.
Well, I want to point out that Pact has something kind of like that, the second Wild Bow work, in which magic is done through implements, which can be any object that has kind of meaning to you.
Cool.
But go on with your idea.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so my idea is actually within the pilot. And have this idea for this character, who their trinket is a lighter. Mm-hmm. So of course their powers are slightly fire based, but the trick to their trinket is that it actually isn't the lighter at all. Mm-hmm. It is the wick that is inside of the lighter. Okay. So a thing within this world is that there are people that steal other people's trinkets. Now, once you steal it, it won't work for you.
But their powers won't work.
Yeah. So the trinket won't work for you. Mm-hmm. But the other person, of course, won't have their power. And it is possible to extract the essence from these trinket, not gaining the power, but extracting the
energy.
Yeah, the source of it. So I see this one character whose trinket is a lighter, and them losing that said lighter, but still having their trinket, which is the wick. Mm-hmm. So then, with that wick, they can put it into other objects, thus changing the form of their abilities.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah,
I wonder what other uses you could have for a wick. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you could like just tape it to something. So like you can have a wick, and you can tape the wick to a gun, and then you have gun powers.
Magical gunpowders.
Yeah,
powers.
Powders. Magical gunpowder.
Mm-hmm. All right. So let's find out the words for next week, Jarvis.
Oh, Matthias, the words for next week. I just found this out. They are actually difficult. Green, lace, and mercury. Murky.
So, difficult as in something is hard.
Yeah. Green as in the color.
Yes. Lace as in...
as in arsenic and old lace.
What?
Arsenic and old lace. It's a very classic play.
Okay. So something could be made of lace.
Or laced.
Or laced with a drug.
Yeah.
And finally, murky as in like a hard to see through liquid. So I'm getting serious swamp vibes.
Yeah.
From this.
Like a swamp laced with ketamine.
Like, it's difficult to walk through this murky swamp, especially, murky green swamp, obviously, especially when the vines are laced with a venom that will paralyze my bones.
Wow. So send you into instant rigor mortis. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, personally, I kind of find it difficult to believe you, Matthias, because recently you've been a little bit too green.
Okay.
You know, too happy, too jubilant, too ready to go. That I think that your judgment is a little murky.
Okay.
Maybe you have a ulterior motive that I'm not really sure about. Maybe that coffee that you gave me before, that coffee that I have noticed since, I have been seeing very strange visions in the corner and center of my vision. Maybe that coffee was laced. And maybe, just maybe, I might die tonight.
Okay.
So thank you so much for everyone that has listened to this episode of Do the Right Thing. We're here for you and you're here for us. And I'm very happy about all that. So, Matthias, what are we going to do now?
Do the right thing?
We're going to do the right thing.
I think we're getting closer to the most awkward ending to our podcast possible.
Do you think so?
I think every day we stray farther from God.